Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back on another video from Annie News, another cut content video, season 2, and it is the second to last episode of the season, I do believe. And this is amazing. I love this episode. Rudy and Sylphie finally getting to properly be, friends again. Well, Sylphie gets to be herself with Rudy. It's something we've been waiting for pretty much the majority of this season to happen, and I loved it. Apparently, there's only one more episode left, which is a shame. But I reckon it'll announce that its series is going to continue after the fact. It's been so good. It's been absolutely fantastic, and these cut content videos has been awesome as well. So let's see what was left out, man. Let's check it out. Let's do it.
9 years. That's how long Sylphie has been without Rudy for. It's been 6 since the incident that changed her life, but whether it was 6 or 9, every day of them was spent working towards seeing him again.
Aww.
Unlike how Rudy was able to reunite with the people he loved, though, Sylphie was all on her own for all of it. She was left by herself in a place unfamiliar to her, forced to carry the identity of a person that she wasn't. So, it was when Rudy had returned to her life that you could only imagine just how excited she was to see him. Every night she would dream of the life that she envisioned for them, yet it was never something she could act on since she was too scared that he might not remember her. Well, after 9 long years of waiting, all that fear and all that anxiety could finally turn to relief and joy as the two would formally reunite with each other.
I like how he called her by her full name as well. It was just like, oh, yes.
And it's the build-up of that, along with Rudy's and Sylphie's thoughts of it, that we're gonna look at here in today's cut content. Episode 35, To You, covering chapters 9 and 10 from volume 9 of the light novel.
So it's covering 2 chapters like normal again, okay.
Rudy couldn't figure out what it was that set him off in the library, but it turns
Set him off, love it.
out the answer to his problem was close by all along. The main issue with a medicine like that, though, was the method in which he would acquire a prescription to it.
Oof.
You see, had he known that Fitz was a girl 6 months ago, then Rudy felt he would have courted her more aggressively. But since he didn't want a repeat of the whole Eris situation, Rudy knew it was best to not get too physical too early. So, as he resigned himself to accepting Fitz as a man for now, he would look at his own reflection and wonder if it was attractive to her. It was an appearance he still couldn't consider his own, but for the 16 years since he'd come here, he'd pretty much gotten used to it by now. It was definitely better than the one that he had last time. 2 days would pass since his incident in the library, and that's when we would get to the day of his encounter with Luke.
I love that Luke, can't remember the princess's name, and the princess just was totally on board with, like, just telling Rudy who you are. I loved it. Like, by command of the... I was just like, that's sick.
Since most of that was pretty much the same, though, we'll instead focus on the scene which should have come after. Rudy had just finished up his classes for the day, and it was as he was heading to his daily experiments with Nanahoshi that Fitz would be waiting to accompany him. If you don't remember from last cut content, because Rudy wasn't going to the library as often, Fitz would sometimes go with him to help with the summoning experiments.
Oh yeah, not be able to do a lot.
With this being another one of those times, there was a lengthy awkward silence in which no one would say anything.
Oh wow, that makes sense. That would have been nice to see, but...
Combine that with the tense look on Fitz's face, and that would be enough for Nanahoshi to step in and ask if the two had a fight or something. Of course, that wasn't the case, but the flustered response Fitz would give definitely made it seem like something was up. Something Nanahoshi made clear not to get her involved in. You see, if there was any single policy with which Nanahoshi stuck to, it was the distance she made sure to keep from any and all conflict. So, knowing...
Yes, because of the lack of mana and all that in it. Was that the case? Yeah.
Just how deep Fitz's ties were to Asuran nobility, Nanahoshi wanted to stay as far away from that as possible,
Makes sense.
leaving the two to continue their awkward silence for the rest of the experiments. It was as they walked home together that Fitz would pause as if to say something important. The moment Rudy turned to ask what it was, though, Fitz would simply disregard it and part ways with him. It was a question Rudy definitely wanted to get an answer to, but because he promised not to cause any trouble, the only thing he could do was accept it and leave things be. It was an unpleasant state of being since neither could confront the other on what had happened, one Rudy knew that he could only take so much of. Luckily for him, Ariel would be working behind the scenes to make things a bit more manageable.
I said Arias, but I don't know
It's
why.
not like she didn't enjoy watching Sylphie squirm the way that she did around him, but the perpetual sadness that came from seeing Rudy spend more time with Silent and less time with her truly was rather painful to watch. So much so that she was willing to set aside her own feelings of jealousy and help Sylphie come to terms with her own.
It showed the nice side, because I know in these cut content videos we haven't seen like how kind of a bitch she is, but with the anime she does come across as a very nice individual, and that she is definitely friends with Sylphie, and this episode definitely portrayed that she wanted the best for Sylphie.
Now, when Ariel came to ask Sylphie her next question, the response Sylphie gave was in direct contrast to the response she gave to that same question from 2 or 3 episodes ago. This wasn't shown in the anime, but back when Sylphie had first started seeing Rudy again, Ariel had proposed this exact same question to her. When she responded saying that all she wanted to do was help the princess though, the smile Ariel showed after was a genuine smile of relief that Sylphie hadn't seen since the 3 of them had come here.
Oh.
You see, neither Sylphie nor Ariel wanted to let the other go. Sylphie knew exactly what she wanted, but because she was committed to her role as bodyguard, to say that she wanted to be with Rudy would be the same thing as betraying Ariel. Then, despite Ariel knowing that Sylphie was lying, she couldn't help but be happy that her closest friend was willing to stay with her. She would much rather allow Sylphie to lie to herself than go through the pain of giving up one of the people that she was closest with. That is until we got to this episode here. With 6 months having gone with 0 progress, Ariel was no longer willing to let Sylphie lie to herself. She couldn't stand to see her suffer the way that she was anymore. So, as one friend to another, Ariel made it clear that pursuing her own goals wouldn't be a betrayal to her. In fact,
Be true to yourself.
if Ariel was to allow herself to hold Sylphie back any longer, she was certain that she would be betraying Sylphie instead.
Okay,
This may not have held true in the Kingdom of Asura, but here in Renoa, where Ariel's title didn't carry as much weight, there was definitely some truth to be found in it. So this would be what Sylphie needed to hear in order to move on from Ariel. An emotional climax between a most unlikely friendship. The whole scene would have been a lot heavier had they covered more of Sylphie's side stories, but I think the anime did just enough to make the most out of it. The only thing I think really needs explaining are the 2 instances of genuine smiles that the princess gave. There was the one when Sylphie lied to her, then yet another when she told the truth. Both equally rare since every other smile is always artificial and calculated,
Right.
thus
That's what I'm
reinforcing
talking
just how
about,
significant
yeah.
such conversations were, as well as how much a manipulative person like Ariel cares for Sylphie. Now, as the 3 of them discussed ways to get Rudy to remember Sylphie, Ariel had actually tried to put herself in Rudy's shoes. She didn't remember the names of all her attendants, but she did remember a few due to the strong memories associated with them, one of which was a maid named Lilia who had actually saved her life from assassins.
Oh.
So, with that being the baseline on how to jog Rudy's memory, Sylphie felt that she still needed a bit more. Reason being that even with the enormous hint of Fitz being this person who could cast familiar spells silently, several factors made such a hint negligible. The first was Rudy's tendency towards self-deprecation, the second his encounters with overwhelmingly powerful individuals, then the third Fitz's association to Ariel.
So we've got didn't think silence spellcasting was all that special, yeah, because he could do it. Accustomed to Roger, Chris, Lane, a princess's bodyguard must be powerful. So you would assume those things, I guess.
All of these made silent spellcasting not so notable to him. The first 2 made it seem like silent spellcasting was easier than he thought, then the third was a bodyguard position that made sense for a powerful spellcaster to be in.
Yes.
So,
if they're
with
looking
all
after a
that
princess, you'd
working
think they'd
against
be
them,
very capable.
Sylphie knew that she would have to target Rudy's strongest memory of her, the bullying or the undressing one.
Oh god, yeah. When she explained the undressing story, it was just okay. Yeah, that's nice, I guess.
Since the bullying one would entail
bullying one
having
was,
Rudy save Sylphie from
nice
hired thugs,
that he
the level of
helped her,
skill
but yeah.
needed for those thugs to even stand a chance would have to be adventurer level. The thing is, if they were to go around hiring adventurers, the odds of them finding a group that didn't know Quagmire was, well, slim.
Yeah.
Ariel
He's
didn't know how far
known.
Rudy's network with them extended, but she was certain that they reached much farther than she herself could anticipate. I mean, just this past week they received word that Rudy was drinking with one of the leaders of Thunderbolt. With that being one of the few groups that she trusted to do the job properly, to try any others would just be dangerous. So that left only the undressing story. Now, I'm sure we were all surprised by just how far Sylphie's fantasies with Rudy went, but
There's a
all
bit
that was just the horny stuff.
far, yeah.
The rest, which was left behind in the novels, was
in these fantasies, the house they lived in was the one Rudy's family owned back in Buena Village, or at least one of the same size. The two of them shared the same bed. Naturally, when she woke up every morning, Rudy was lying by her side. He greeted her with a good morning and a kiss, then got dressed and went off to do his morning training. Heading downstairs, Sophie made breakfast. This was one of her jobs around the household. It wasn't anything too fancy, but Rudy always had a solid appetite, so she made plenty of food. Right, okay. So, yeah, that doesn't sound too,
It's mostly what Sylphie
too in the horny side.
envisioned for her daily life with him. I'm not going to recount the entirety of it here, but if you are
I'm not going to
interested,
pause
it's
and read it
scrolling
all
across
either.
the screen now.
Yeah.
In any case, it's in the next scene here with Rudy and the others that we were actually given context behind what Rudy was telling Xanaba to do. Right before Sylphie had arrived, Rudy and
Oh, yeah. Like, he was, like, telling him to carry on with what they were talking about.
Xanaba were attempting to sell their figure-making skills to Bodygotti.
Oh, okay.
They wanted to capture Kashirika's likeness by making a figure of her.
Ah.
Body didn't quite see the purpose of it, but after Rudy explained it was to preserve her current appearance, the idea of multiple Kashirikas at different ages slowly became more appealing to him. He began to see where it is Rudy was coming from with this. Of course, Rudy would be long dead by the time Kashirika fully matured, but that would just mean his skills would have to be passed down to future generations. So, all in all, it was an offer that spanned several lifetimes, and the only thing Rudy wanted in return was the spread of his good name from time to time. It was a deal that most definitely favored Rudy's side. An interesting thing Sylphie noticed while Rudy was making this deal was the devious smile he carried while doing so. It wasn't often that Sylphie saw Rudy smile, but it was when she did that they would usually turn out like this. Mischievous
Yes,
grins that truly made him look
mischievous
like a
grin,
villain.
yes.
If Sylphie was to compare it to another person's smile, the only suitable match would be Darius's, the evil minister who had driven Ariel out to begin with. She never thought much of it back in the castle, but now that she knew that it wasn't a normal person's smile, she figured it was the look of someone who was clever. Never once thinking that maybe there was some ill intent behind
Kind
it.
of some
It's when Sylphie
perfiness
pulls Rudy
behind
to
it.
the side after this that the only things we miss out on are her inner monologues. An initial one laughing at Rudy's self-deprecating nature, then another that gasped in awe at just how knowledgeable he was. The former came from a misunderstanding in which she thought Sylphie was gonna fight the bodyguard, then the latter was the immediate regurgitation of everything he knew about the Forest of Hail. You see, not only did Rudy know exactly what flowers Sylphie was talking about, but he also went on to talk about all the monsters surrounding it. It was a display of knowledge Sylphie could only gawk at. Fast forward to when her operation would be in its second phase, and the two would find themselves traveling north towards Basharant.
It was sneaky when she took that and just stopped Rudy stopping the rain. I thought that was quite funny.
It was a 3-day journey right to the
It's as if someone had cast a spell. It's like, yeah, it was her.
border of Sharia. To give a bit more context on why Sylphie found herself blushing, the moment she thought of herself buying Rudy, she immediately envisioned Rudy stepping on a stage butt naked at the slave market.
Oh.
She then thought of everything she'd do to him after, which to her was a potentially fun situation to stumble into.
Oh my god, she really wants she wants to get Rudy with Rudy.
In any case, it's once the two would enter the
She wants to get Nudie and Rudy with Rudy Ooey.
Forest of Hail that we would find out exactly why it was called such. No one knew why it happened, but they assumed it was a magic abnormality that caused hail to fall on the regular. As for where they were going in this Forest of Hail, the flowers they sought tended to bloom on a cliff on the other side of the forest, a lengthy path which would have them traverse deep snow like this. Another thing
I thought that was quite cool. Keep an eye out just in case I'm just going to blast the snow.
Sylphie found herself in awe at was Rudy's ability to maintain the perfect level of heat to melt the snow. Not only that, but the heat he was using didn't produce water vapor either, making it so nearby monsters couldn't easily pinpoint their position. So, to Sylphie's amazement, Rudy knew the exact temperature in which he could melt the snow without creating steam. It was an astonishing feat that highlighted his meticulous control over fire magic. Now, when Sylphie asked to hold Rudy's staff, the innuendos both were making were completely intentional. Rudy smirked as he told Sylphie to get a good grip, and Sylphie was just being Sylphie here. The context for why she wanted to hold it, though, did make sense as we find out there was a valid reason for it. The Asuran royalty simply didn't want to give her one. Since she was already proficient in silent casting, they didn't think that a staff was necessary for her, likely as a pretense to save themselves money. But anyway, an important thing to note about this whole setup is the 2 advanced tier water mages Ariel had hired to make it happen. The signal was passed through one magical ring to another, and that was cue for the magicians waiting outside the forest to make it rain. One thing nobody had accounted for, though, was the ease in which Rudy could overpower such magicians. Had he been holding his staff, then neither Sylphie nor the magicians outside could prevent him from doing so. Since Sylphie was the one holding the staff, the level at which it powered up her water magic was just enough to counter Rudy's efforts to negate this change in weather.
So she did actually negate it. Part of me was like, did she actually do anything? But yeah.
Thus giving the hired water mages just enough room to maintain control. Now, because Sylphie's jacket was only useful for stopping snow, rain like this was extremely dangerous to her. You see, unlike snow which could just be brushed off, any sort of water would be absorbed immediately. So, should her jacket become drenched in rain, then the water would soak right through and a single gust of wind would freeze her to death. It was a dire situation in which finding shelter was the only option, bringing them to a cave that Sylphie just so happened to know about.
Just so happened.
With this finally bringing us back to Rudy's perspective, the only thing on his mind now was how his magic didn't work. The sudden downpour definitely wasn't natural, so why was it then that someone was forcing rain on them? It was a thought that led Rudy to think that perhaps Fitz wanted to assassinate him.
Oh, so he had different... Wow, okay, that was different. That was very different, whoa.
That or the noble Ariel was competing with was trying to stop them. Either way, something fishy was very clearly happening here. Once the fire was made and clothes hung up, that rule that Rudy had said to Sylphie about elves being naked was nothing more than an excuse he made up to allow Fitz to undress herself. It was when that didn't work, though, that Rudy would start to worry just like how he did in the anime, leading us to the big reveal that we've all been waiting for.
Yes,
it was while all this was happening, though, that Rudy's inner thoughts would be in utter panic. Not only was he trying to commit to the promise of acknowledging Fitz as a guy, but both his body and mouth were acting on their own now. Before he could even realize what was happening, he was already agreeing to undress Fitz, all while actively moving closer to do so. So, for all he knew, this could be some sort of blackmail scam, but no amount of caution was going to stop his hands from doing what they wanted to do. It took all he had already to just stop himself from going further than this. The actions that started to make Rudy remember things was not only the way that he pulled Fitz's pants down, but also the gloves which revealed hands that he knew he recognized. They were hands that carried a scar from a time when Sylphie had burned herself, a scar reminiscent of another key memory with her. Then, when it came to the final reveal of the woman behind the glasses, what Rudy saw underneath was a face more beautiful than even he could have imagined.
Aww.
Before, he already knew that Sylphie would grow up to become a lady killer, but the visage he saw now was even beyond that. It was one that shared the same beauty of Valina Lise's, yet somehow was more approachable and even more endearing. It was everything that Rudy had expected and more. So, with this bringing us to this season's climax, that would be pretty much it for the episode. It was a good portrayal of what I thought would be a lot more emotional for some reason. If you have your own thoughts, then feel free to leave them down in the comments. But anyway, the rest I'll talk about in the season finale next week. If you want to know all that cut content early though, then don't forget that I will be doing a big stream for it on Sunday. The link to that will be down in the description. Now, as always, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this type of anime content, then you already know what to do. So until next time, ciao.
Oh, that was really interesting. A lot of different internal monologues and thoughts that we didn't get from the anime, but it didn't change too much. But still, again, really interesting to see what the changes and difference were and what was left out. I can't wait. I don't want to have to wait for more Mushoku Tensei, but I'm really intrigued to see what happens in the next episode. But yeah, make sure you check out my Etsy shop. I've got a new t-shirt on there. The design, I absolutely love it. Yeah. Do you know what? I say that. If you're buying from the US, I'm going to have to put up a different version because I haven't done anything about postage. But if you don't mind paying for it, then go for it. But if not, I'm going to... Yeah, that has reminded me. If you're in the UK, postage is going to be sound. I'll push the t-shirt after I put a US version out, but I'll put a picture of the design up for you anyway, so you can see what it is. And then when I put a US version, so the postage isn't ridiculous, then yeah, damn it, I should have done that as well. But anyway, thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video upload, link in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is live support channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe, and leave comments down below. Let me know how you watch some future videos. So guys, next time.